reports of two 14-year-old boys murdering their neighbor, aged 52, with a baseball bat before setting the home on fire with the neighbor still inside. He remains in Lawrence County Juvenile Court as we speak. Now, let's move to reporter Jillian Baker with more details.
Thanks, Ella. As this case unfolds, we begin to see more and more details about what really happened. According to trial testimony given today here in court, Evan Miller, along with friend Colby Smith, planned to get Miller's neighbor Cole Cannon allegedly drunk so that they could rob him. Miller and Smith stole baseball cards and approximately $350 worth of money from his neighbor, then beat him with a baseball bat and set his mobile home on fire while he was still inside. I'm going to hand things right back over to reporter Ella Fox.
Thank you, Jillian. As we stand here today waiting for the verdict, you can tell there is a very tense atmosphere in the room. Miller is being tried as an adult today after being transferred to the Lawrence County Circuit Court, and if found guilty with a full sentencing, he will be the youngest person ever recorded in Alabama to be sentenced to life in prison without parole. While we wait for the verdict, we move to a brief commercial break.
For our emergency medical response service. Watch. You just press this button and speak into the air and...
I'm having chest pain.
I'm calling paramedics and your family, Mr. Miller.
I've fallen, and I can't get up.
We're sending help immediately, Mrs. Fletcher.
See? Protect yourself with Life Call, and you're never alone. To get complete free information by mail about this affordable medical emergency response system, call toll-free now. Life Call can save your life, so call to get free details by mail right away.
Folks, this just in, we are back in the studio and the verdict has been released. Evan Miller is now the youngest person in Alabama to ever receive the sentencing of life in prison without the possibility of parole. This is on charges of capital murder during the course of arson. I move to Jillian with more information about what is to come post-trial.
July of 2003 must be a crazy time because we have just heard news of another extremely similar case to Evan Miller. In Arkansas, a 14-year-old boy by the name of Kentel Jackson was recently tried as an adult and also sentenced to life in prison without parole. Both boys had filed motions to appeal, arguing that their sentences were cruel and excessive.
After Kentel Jackson was tried and convicted of capital murder and aggravated robbery, the trial court sentenced Jackson to a mandatory term of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Jackson filed a petition seeking a writ habeas corpus in circuit court. He argued that his sentence was unusual and excessive. The circuit court dismissed the petition and Jackson appealed. The Supreme Court of Arkansas affirmed the lower court's decision.
As things settled down with Kentel Jackson, we move right back to Evan Miller as he filed a motion for a completely new trial. His basis being sentencing a 14-year-old to life in jail without parole and is a complete violation of the Eighth Amendment. Unfortunately for Evan Miller, his motion was denied by the trial court. But wait, there's more. Miller couldn't give up and filed an appeal to the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals, where once again he was denied. And if that wasn't enough, the Supreme Court of Alabama also denied his writ of cert. But after both boys appealed to the Supreme Court just one more time, we wait for an update as both trials began to answer the question on everyone's mind. Does the imposition of a life without parole sentence on a 14-year-old child violate the 8th and 14th Amendments prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment?
Today in the Supreme Court to watch the Miller v. Alabama trial unfold. Here's an inside look about what our judges have to say about the trial.
We'll hear argument first this morning in Case 10-9646, Miller versus Alabama. Mr. Stevenson.
Mr. Chief Justice, and may it please the Court, in Graham versus Florida, this Court recognized that children are inherently characterized by internal attributes and external circumstances that preclude a finding of a degree of culpability that would make a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole constitutionally permissible under the Court's Eighth Amendment excessiveness analysis. While the issue in Graham involved juveniles that were convicted of non-homicide offenses, these deficits in maturity and judgment and decision-making are not crime-specific.
You just heard from Chief Justice John G. Roberts, along with Justices Scalia, Kennedy, Thomas, Ginsburg, Breyer, Alito, Sotomayor, and Kagan. It was a 5-4 decision for Evan Miller with a majority opinion written by Judge Elena Kagan.
All right, everyone, we're back in the studio after a very long, intense trial.
Tune in next week as we cover a different case. Thank you for watching.
Alright everyone, we're back in the studio after a very long and confusing trial.
Did I just read?
No, it's okay. Alright everyone, we're back in the studio after a very long and confusing trial. You're supposed to...
He couldn't give up and filed a petition. Unfolds in front of us today. We could begin to hear